69. Crumbled. Lavanya's POV. After lunch, we bid farewell to our relatives, friends, and colleagues. Family members hugged me and Virat sir, offering their blessings and wishes for a happy life. Ruhi gave me a reassuring smile, while Balram sir gifted me his heartfelt blessings. Once everyone had left, my family, Virat sir, and his parents went upstairs to our apartment. The elders settled onto the sofas, sighing in relief. Thank God everything went smoothly, Virat sir's mother expressed. I am sorry, Mrs. Oberoi, for what? Mama began, lowering her voice apologetically. I lowered my gaze, standing quietly behind her. It's okay, Mrs. Verma. We understand. Lavanya is such a beautiful and sweet girl. No wonder people love her. She interrupted warmly. Then, looking up at me with a gentle smile, she gestured for me to sit beside her. Come here, Lavanya. I glanced at my parents, sensing their unease, before stepping forward and taking the seat next to her. This color suits you well. You look even more beautiful today, she complimented, and I smiled politely in response. Virat sir, watching us from beside his father, grinned with satisfaction. We should be leaving now, Virat sir's father announced. It's already 5. We shouldn't stay too long. Delhi traffic is a nightmare in the evenings these days. He laughed lightly and everyone chuckled except me. Yes, that's true, Mr. Oberoi. The roads are so congested now, my father agreed. Just the other day, I was walking to the vegetable market and an auto rickshaw nearly ran into me. They don't even care about pedestrians anymore. Footpaths are practically useless. It's always safer to take a vehicle, especially a four-wheeler. Riding a two-wheeler in this traffic is unthinkable. Virat sir's parents nodded in agreement. So, shall we leave, Mrs. Oberoi? Virat sir's father turned to his wife with a teasing smile, making everyone giggle. She rolled her eyes. Did I stop you, Mr. Oberoi? Ladies' gossip never ends. That's why I thought I should ask for your permission, ma'am. He teased again, earning a playful shrug from his wife. Everyone chuckled once more. Before leaving, Virat sir gave me one last glance, flashing a sweet smile. I'll call you, he mouthed before stepping out of our apartment. Once they were gone, I headed straight to my room to change out of my heavy outfit. As I removed my jewelry, I heard a soft knock on the door. Yes, come in, I called out. It's me, Daddy. His familiar voice came from behind the half-open door. Yes, Daddy, please come in, I said, placing the last bangle onto my dressing table and standing up. He entered, sat down on my bed, and gestured for me to sit in front of him. I obeyed, and he studied my face for a moment. It was a very hectic day, he began, pausing briefly before asking hesitantly, What's going on in your mind, Lavanya? I blinked at him and shook my head, pretending not to understand what he meant, though I knew exactly what he was referring to. I'm sorry to bring this up, beta, he continued gently. I know you're engaged to Virat now, and this was your decision. But I need to understand, what was that all about? I mean, how and when did Mr. Dawson get involved in this? Daddy, I paused. I wanted to speak, but my lips refused to sync with my thoughts. He sighed, placed his right hand over my left, and spoke gently. Lavanya, you know we have never pressured you for anything, especially me. You wanted to marry Virat, and that's why we're doing this. But if you have any doubts about your decision, tell me. We can reconsider. We can postpone the wedding if needed. I'll talk to Virat and his family, he assured me, nodding as he placed his left palm on his chest, emphasizing his sincerity. You're so sweet, Daddy. How can I be selfish to a father like this? I can't. I won't let him feel embarrassed in front of his relatives or Virat's family. I can't let that happen to my parents. They are such kind-hearted people. As I thought this, I kept my gaze on him, silently battling my emotions. You know you can talk to me, darling, right? He asked, trying to read my mind. I slowly nodded with a soft smile. You're the best daddy in the world, I said. I know, he smiled back. So? He waited for me to say something meaningful. So nothing, daddy. I'm fine. People come into our lives every day. Some stay, some leave. No one can stay forever, but they leave us with memories to cherish. Likewise, Mr. Dawson will always be a memorable part of our lives. Am I right? I asked, curious about what he truly thought of Mr. Dawson. Is he? Daddy asked, raising an eyebrow. The way he showed up today, it didn't seem like that. Everyone could tell there was something serious on his mind. For a moment, we weren't even sure if the engagement would go ahead. Are you sure he's just a memory for you? Are you sure he hasn't become more than that? How can I tell you, Daddy, what he truly means to me? After a long silence, I finally answered. No, Daddy. I've made the right decision for my future. Virat sir and his family love me. They've accepted me wholeheartedly. Other people's feelings shouldn't affect my choices. Well, yes, but you should also think about your own happiness. If you're truly happy with this decision, then yes, Dawson's feelings shouldn't matter to you. He hesitated slightly before adding, I was just curious about your feelings. I am fine, Dada, I reassured him with a smile. No, I don't just want you to be fine. I want you to be happy, more than happy, he said, his concern evident in his voice. I was about to reply when my phone suddenly rang, interrupting the moment. Both of us paused. I think people have started calling to congratulate you on your engagement, Daddy said, nodding towards my phone. His right hand was still over mine as I glanced at the screen. Balram sir, why is he calling this late? I answered the call. Hello? Behina. Balram sir's voice came through, shaky, panicked. Sir, what happened? Are you okay? I asked urgently. My father frowned at my worried tone. Lavanya, Mr. Dawson. He was breathing heavily. I tensed immediately. Mr. Dawson, what? He exhaled loudly. He's in the hospital, Lavanya. What? I shot up from my seat, my father standing up as well. He had an accident. We're at AIMS. A cold shiver ran through me. My breathing turned heavy. My hands began to tremble. Words failed me. My mind went blank. Seeing my shaking figure, Daddy grew alarmed. Lavanya, what is it, beta? Mr. Dawson did what? Dada, Dad. I stammered helplessly, my voice barely forming words. My father nodded encouragingly, waiting for me to speak. Daddy. The moment the word left my lips, tears streamed down my face, and without another thought, I bolted. Lavanya, stop! Lavanya! My father called after me, his voice full of concern. I was still in my engagement outfit, my phone pressed against my right ear. I'm coming, I blurted out, barely aware of my own words. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me. My father tried to follow, calling my name, but he could only chase me as far as the community garden before halting behind. I rushed past the main gate, heading straight for the auto rickshaw stand, nearly 200 meters away. Just as I neared it, the weather turned furious. Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a terrifying roar of thunder. I was only 20 feet from the stand when the rain came pouring down in sheets. Within seconds, I was completely drenched. My already heavy outfit became soaked, making every movement even more difficult. But I forced myself forward, somehow reaching the rickshaw stand. AIMS Hospital, please take me there now, I begged one of the drivers. Instead of responding, One of them smirked and sneered in a mocking tone. Gal se bhag aayi ho kya, madam? The others laughed, but I ignored them. Please, Bahaya, I pleaded. Mujhe IMS hospital jaldi se chhod dijiye. It's urgent, please. The driver smirked again. Itni barish? Mein kaise jayega, madam? Double charge lagega. Paisehan? He eyed me from head to toe, making me suddenly realize I had no money. I shook my head slowly, my mind racing. I can't be late. I have to see him. Fine, I'll walk. I have to get there. There's no time to waste. Determined, I turned around and started walking through the downpour. Behind me, I heard the drivers muttering and laughing amongst themselves. I had barely walked 10 feet when I heard the sound of an auto rickshaw engine revving behind me. My body tensed. I clutched my dupatta tightly around my torso, bracing myself. Beta! A faint voice called from beside me. I stopped and turned to see an old man in an auto rickshaw. He pulled up next to me and said gently, "Aa jao, beta. Main tumhe hospital chhika dunga. Chinta mat karo, payis baad mein dena. Main tumhe bahut bayar aate jaate dekha hai. तुम्हारे पापा को भी जानता हूं, वो मार्केट जाते हैं चाल चाल के. छोड़ दूंगा IM's mean, अकेले मत जाओ ऐसो." Tears mixed with the raindrops on my face. "Thank you, uncle," I whispered, my voice choked with emotion. At that moment, he felt like an angel, sent to help me at the right time. "Thank you so much." I climbed into the rickshaw, drenched and shivering. My phone, soaked from the rain, was nearly unresponsive. I wiped the screen with my stole and frantically tried calling Balram sir again, but he wasn't picking up. Tears refused to stop. My heart pounded violently in my chest. "Please, God, please, don't let anything happen to Mr. Dawson." As I prayed, my eyes landed on a temple across the road. My hands instinctively clasped together. "Please take care of him, please." After about 25 minutes, the driver pulled up in front of the IEMS building. I hurriedly got down and turned to thank the old man. "Thank you, uncle. आज आप नहीं होते तो." "कोई बात नहीं बेटा, इंसान ही तो इंसान की मदद करेगा ना. अब तुम जाओ, मैं यहाँ तुम्हारा इंतजार करता हूँ. तुम्हें वापस घर छोड़ दूंगा." He offered kindly. "No, uncle, thank you. Oh, Abhi, I'll be late," I said, quickly turning towards the building. As I rushed off, I heard him call after me, "Kayal rakhna, beta, Allah sab dekh kar dega." For some reason, his words brought me an unexpected sense of relief, and I wanted to believe that everything would be fine. I pushed my way into the crowded hospital lobby, where patients and their guardians were waiting for their turn. Scanning my surroundings, I quickly spotted the reception desk and ran towards it. "Hello, where is Mr. Dawson?" I asked urgently. "Dawson?" The receptionist frowned in confusion. "I mean, Jackie Dawson. He's an American. He had an accident and was admitted here." I glanced around, hoping to spot Balram sir. Oh yes, the new foreigner. A Punjabi guy brought him in," she recalled, raising her brows. I nodded hurriedly. Yes, where is he? Is he okay?" "He's in casualty, ma'am. They're dressing his wounds." I didn't wait to hear the rest. The moment she said casualty, I took off running, her voice fading behind me. "Oh, I just need to see him." I found the room, marked casualty in bold blue letters, and flung the door open, frantically searching for him. The moment my eyes landed on him, lying on a hospital bed, I rushed forward and threw my arms around him, hugging him tightly. Tears streamed down my face as I sobbed like a little girl, oblivious to everything around me. Then suddenly, I felt his chest vibrate against mine. I pulled back immediately, sitting up straight to check if he was okay. But as my eyes took in the scene before me, An overwhelming awkwardness settled in. Jackie wasn't wearing a shirt. His face was strained with pain, his discomfort evident. His left arm was in a sling, with bandages wrapped around his shoulder. Smaller bandages covered his chin and left forehead. His right knee was also wrapped in a crepe bandage, and the right leg of his pants had been rolled up to his mid-thigh. But what made the moment even more awkward was the fact that the patient on the other bed and his relative were openly staring at me. I slowly turned my head, only to find Balram sir standing there gawking at me. And as if that weren't enough, the female nurse, who had been writing on a clipboard, smirked before commenting, "You're making him wet, miss." I jerked my head up in confusion. She motioned towards my clothes. I looked down, realizing only now that I was completely drenched from the rain. Heat rose to my face as I quickly stepped back, swallowing hard. The nurse shook her head with an amused smile before turning to the other patient's relative. "Come, let's go to the doctor's cabin," she said, leading them out and leaving the room. Balram sir let out a fake cough, trying to ease the awkwardness. I'll be outside, sir," he muttered before swiftly exiting the casualty ward. And just like that, only 3 of us remained: me, Mr. Dawson, and the other patient. I stood in silence, avoiding Mr. Dawson's gaze, though I could sense him glancing at me from time to time. He was waiting for me to speak first. And meanwhile, the other patient kept sneaking glances at us every 3 to 4 seconds, making the moment even more uncomfortable. "Why are your clothes wet?" Mr. Dawson finally spoke. It's raining outside," I replied. Then, pointing at his injured hand, I asked in a hushed voice, How did this happen?" "I don't know," he said with a shake of his head. I was walking towards the temple, and suddenly, a van or a bus, I don't even remember what it was, hit me. I fell, and after that, I don't know what happened. His voice trailed off as if he didn't want to recall it. "You were absent-minded," I remarked. He looked at me for a moment before questioning, "Why are you here? What should I say now?" I was informed about your accident, so I came to visit, to check whether you were okay or not," I stammered, pausing between words, unsure of what to say. "Why do you even care?" he countered. "Because I am your—" I hesitated. "You are my—" he interjected. Your employee, and a friend too," I finally said. "Oh, really?" He let out a dry laugh. "Well, I don't need a friend, and I definitely don't need a fake caring employee like you." That stung. "I'm not being fake," I muttered, keeping my gaze away from him. "Please leave," he said, his voice low but firm. "I don't have any energy left for this nonsense." I stood there in silence for a few seconds before finally whispering, Get well soon, sir." Then, without another word, I turned and walked out of the room. Outside, I found Balram sir waiting. He took one look at my face and frowned. "Is everything okay?" he asked. I nodded, but my tears betrayed me. Within seconds, I buried my face in my palms and broke into sobs. Oye, behena ki hoya? What happened? Why are you crying?" he asked, concerned. I shook my head, unable to answer. "He's fine, don't worry," he reassured me. I thought, my voice broke and I couldn't finish my sentence. Balram sir sighed and pulled me into a side hug, guiding me to sit on a nearby bench. "Nothing has happened," he said gently. "It's just a few sprains and some scratches, that's all." I was so scared. I mumbled into my palms. "I know, Behena, I know," he said softly. "But don't cry. Now wipe your tears, wipe them. he ordered like a protective older brother. I wiped my face and murmured, "He hates me." "Who hates you? Nobody hates you. Not a single person. No one can hate you, sis," he said, stroking my head. "Mr. Dawson," I whispered. "He hates me. He doesn't want to see me or hear me." "He doesn't hate you," Balram sir corrected. "He's just a little upset with you." After lunch at the function, I went to his apartment to check on him, just so he wouldn't feel lonely. But Jamal told me he never even came home last night. I looked at him in shock. "Then, where was he?" I asked. "I don't know for sure, but I think he spent the entire night at his office. The guards at D. Dawson said they never saw his car leave the campus after the afternoon. That means he only came to see you." Balram sir motioned his head towards me, and I inhaled deeply, closing my eyes. But when I asked the community guards, they said he walked out through the gate. He seemed a little lost. I took my bike to look for him, and then suddenly I saw him walking on the road, completely distracted. He was heading towards something, crossing the street without noticing the heavy traffic. I tried calling out to him, but he couldn't hear me. His eyes were locked on something across the road. He wasn't paying attention to anything else. Balram sir paused, his expression darkening as he recalled the moment. Before I could reach him, within a fraction of a second, a van hit him. I gasped, horrified at the image forming in my mind. I threw my bike aside and ran to him, but by then, he was already unconscious. He couldn't hear me at all. He had some injuries, so I brought him here immediately after calling an ambulance. Ames was the closest hospital. He explained everything in detail, but my thoughts spiraled in a different direction. Was he trying to commit suicide? No, he said he wouldn't. He wouldn't do that. He can't. "Lavanya?" Balram sir's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. "Huh?" I blinked at him, still dazed. "Don't worry, he'll be fine," he reassured me. "I hope so." I nodded, but deep down I couldn't convince myself of it. Because I can't see that happening.
Jackie's POV. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was a white ceiling fan spinning above me. My vision was slightly blurred, but I could make out a nurse wrapping a bandage around my left arm. Then my eyes landed on Balram, standing near the foot of my bed. "Balram." My voice came out cracked and weak. "Welcome back, sir." He smiled warmly, the kind of smile that could lift anyone's spirits. "What's going on, Balram?" I asked, glancing at the bandages covering my body. "Shh." Before he could answer, the nurse interrupted. "Excuse me, ma'am," I started, but she cut me off. "Shh. Take rest," she ordered, completely unfazed by my glare. She didn't even look at me, continuing with her work as if I wasn't there. After she finished dressing my wounds, she scribbled something on a clipboard. I turned to Balram, who simply shrugged, rolling his lower lip out in amusement. I huffed and closed my eyes, hoping to rest for a while. But just then, the door swung open. And so did my eyes. Lavanya. I can't believe it. Am I dreaming? She saw me and without a second's hesitation, rushed toward me. Before I could react, she threw her arms around me, hugging me tightly as she sat beside me on the bed. That's when I noticed she was completely drenched, soaked from head to toe. The coldness of her wet clothes seeped into my skin, sending a shiver down my spine. Her tight embrace pressed against my injured body, causing me pain. But I didn't wince. I didn't say a word. Because I can't risk letting go of this momentary pleasure. Who knows when this will end? It can be a dream, a hallucination. Her soft, trembling touch, the damp strands of her hair brushing against my skin, the warmth of her breath against my shoulder. It all made me feel alive again. Then, without thinking, I inhaled deeply. The sound of my bare chest trembling against hers made her pull back slightly. Idiot. She sat up straight, and I kept my face blank, avoiding her gaze. The silence in the room was suffocating, and with every passing second, the weight of her presence grew heavier. She glanced around, noticing the way others were watching us. Their stares made it even more awkward for her to sit beside me. She hesitated, but eventually sat straight. That's when the female nurse decided to add to the embarrassment. "You're making him wet, miss." Lavanya stiffened, and I shut my eyes for a second, suppressing an exasperated sigh. She hurriedly stood up. The room fell into an awkward silence after the nurse left. Balram's fake coughing only made it worse. I rolled my eyes. I'll be outside, sir," he said before making his exit, leaving me alone with Lavanya and the other patient, who was now openly staring at us. For a few seconds, what felt like ages, nobody spoke. I let my gaze travel down her drenched outfit. "Why are your clothes wet?" She blinked at me. It's raining outside. How did this happen?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, but I understood what she meant. She nodded slightly toward my bandaged arm. "I don't know," I admitted. "I was walking towards the temple, and suddenly a van or a bus, I don't even remember what it was, hit me. I fell, and after that, I don't know what happened." She studied me for a moment before saying, "You were absent-minded." Her words struck a nerve. "Whatever." "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice colder than I intended. She hesitated before answering. I was informed that you had an accident, so I came to visit, to check whether you were okay or not." "That's nice to hear," said no one ever. "Why do you even care?" I challenged. She hesitated again. "Because I am your—" "You are my—" I pressed. "Yeah, your employee. And a friend too." "Bullshit." "Oh, really?" I let out a humorless chuckle. "Well, I don't need a friend. And I certainly don't need a fake caring employee like you." I turned my gaze away from her. "I'm not being fake," she said quietly, frowning at nothing in particular. "Does it even matter now?" "Please leave," I said flatly. "I don't have the energy to hear any more of this nonsense." She took a moment before responding. "Could get well soon, sir." Then she turned towards the door. I watched her leave. I wanted to stop her. I almost opened my mouth to call out her name, but then I caught my damn roommate staring at me with his mouth hanging open. I shut my mouth and clenched my jaw, forcing myself to ignore his incredibly annoying gaze. Bloody idiot. Can't this man shove his eyes into his own eye sockets and keep them shut?
Author's POV. Balram managed to calm Lavanya down before stepping back inside the casualty ward. How are you feeling now, sir?" he asked, drawing out the last syllable in his usual playful way. Jackie let out a tired breath. "Not great. Never had this kind of experience before." He glanced around at his surroundings, then at his bandaged wounds. Balram smiled, shaking his head. Jackie, however, took a moment before asking the only thing he really wanted to know. "She left?" Balram glanced at the other patient, who was now sound asleep, before stepping closer. "No, she was upset. She didn't like seeing you like this. I told her to leave, but she refused. She was crying, so I calmed her down and told her to wait outside. I just didn't let her come back in." Jackie frowned. "But why?" he asked, lowering his voice as he flicked his gaze toward the sleeping patient. "Because you told her you didn't want to see her." Jackie exhaled sharply. "I talk shit sometimes." He realized that now. "Well, now she can come," Jackie allowed, then quickly added, "if she still wants to, just to appear a little stubborn." "Thank you, sir," Balram said with a knowing smile. "But let her stay outside for a while." He pulled up a chair and sat next to Jackie's bed. Taking a deep breath, he fixed his gaze on his employer as if trying to read his thoughts. Jackie tolerated the silent stare for a few moments before getting irritated. "What?" "Nothing." Balram shrugged. "Spit it out, Balram," Jackie demanded. Balram exhaled slowly. "Well, it's very clear that you love her, and apparently she loves you just as much." Jackie frowned. "How can you say that?" Didn't you see how she ran here in the rain without thinking twice as soon as I told her about your accident? She's still in her engagement clothes, but she didn't care. She came all alone at this hour, ignoring terrifying weather. Balram pointed out, unfolding the truth as he saw it. That doesn't prove anything, Jackie scoffed. She says she loves me, but she refuses to be with me. What kind of love is that? I'm not good enough for her. She's just a hypocrite. People are complicated, sir, Balram said patiently. She's a wonderful woman, but she doesn't have the courage to accept her feelings for you. What she does have is the strength to sacrifice them just to make others happy. Most Indian girls are like that, sir. He paused before continuing. Have you ever seen a mother nourishing her child? Have you ever seen a brother and sister celebrating their bond? Have you ever seen friends offering selfless support? It's the same thing. Here in India, all other forms of love come before romantic love. All kinds of love exist here. But romantic love? That's the one that struggles the most to survive. Yes, you can blame society, culture, and people. But they've only just begun learning to accept these things. They're not as open-minded as you expect them to be. Not yet. We're still fighting for same-sex marriages to be accepted socially, even though they're legal now. Love marriages, intercaste marriages, those have been somewhat normalized. But when it comes to religion and nationality, it's a different battle. Convincing people, especially relatives, is much harder. Balram rested a hand on Jackie's right shoulder. Sir, this is what's scaring her away from you. It's not that she doesn't want to be with you. She's dying to see you. And I'm sure she's still crying outside right now. But she doesn't have the courage to fight against society and her family for her own happiness. Jackie frowned. Is that my fault or hers? How can anyone be so stupid? It's no one's fault, Balram said. But some love stories do end like this. Not because the feelings aren't strong enough, but because they can't escape the pressure of society. Jackie let out a frustrated sigh. Then tell me, Balram, what should I do? Have faith in God, Balram said simply. If she's meant for you, she will come back to you. If not, then she was never meant to be yours. Jackie had never seen Balram look so wise before. Let her decide what she truly wants, Balram continued. The fact that she came all the way here, still wearing her engagement outfit, speaks volumes. It hints at a possible future, one that's not set in stone but still possible. Jackie searched his face. Are you sure she'll come back to me? I can't say that, Balram admitted. I can't give you guarantees. But I am hoping for the best, and I am praying for you, sir. He nodded at his boss, silently urging him to stay a little hopeful about life. I want to see her, Jackie muttered to himself. Balram gave him a warm smile. I'll go and send her in. But please, sir, be gentle and kind to her. She's already too disturbed. Her mind needs to be calm to think clearly, he advised before stepping out of the room. Outside, Balram approached Lavanya and gently stroked her head. Lavanya? She looked up, her red, tear-filled eyes meeting his. Mr. Dawson has asked to see you, he said. Her face lit up instantly. Really? He nodded with a bright, friendly smile. Taking a deep breath, she wiped away the lingering tears on her cheeks and eyes, stood up, and gave him a small, weak smile before walking back into the casualty ward. Balram watched her go, then clasped his hands together, closing his eyes in silent prayer. Waheguru inanu milado, Sara kuch sahi kardo Waheguru, Sara kuch sahi kardo.